All right, hey YouTube, this is Kenyatta back with the Religious Studies series. Now we are moving on into Hinduism. We talked about what religion is, the theism. I laid the foundation for all that, the characteristics of religion, so on and so forth. Then we moved on into the indigenous religions. Now we are getting into the religions. First religion that we are going to cover is Hinduism, all right? So I'm back. I just did the finished part 2 of the indigenous religions. I got coffee now instead of that sea moss spirulina drink. And I had lunch. So I'm a little eyes heavy, but like I said, I'm on spring break from school. So I am trying to take advantage of this while I can because I got a new position, got a promotion, and I don't think that I'm going to have some of the free time that I had before. So I'm like, let me get these in now. I'm probably going to set it up as a premiere. But anyway, let's get into Hinduism. My phone is going off. Let me go check it. Hold on. Got it over there on the floor charging. So anyway, let's get into Hinduism. All right. Let's see how far we get. Oh, hold on one more time. Okay, so when we study these religions that we're getting into now, again, I'm going to, the origins of the religion, with the where, the who, that type of thing, and the basic tenets of the religion, and moving on to the next. Hinduism, okay? Hinduism is the major religion of the subcontinent of India. Let's see. There is no identifiable founder of Hinduism. There is no strong organizational structure to defend it, okay, and spread its influence. Okay, no strong organizational structure to defend its influence and spread it. To defend it and spread its influence. Excuse me. Excuse me. There's no creed to define it or stabilize its beliefs. Okay, let me just say this. Okay, there's no creed to define and stabilize its beliefs. Okay, in a way, it seems to defy reason. Hinduism unites the worship of many gods with the single belief in a divine reality. We talked about the many gods. The many gods is polytheism, so we would say that it is polytheistic. However, there is a belief in a single divine reality, all right? But it would be defined as polytheistic, okay? The name Hinduism, it says the name Hinduism can be misleading because it is not a single unified religion. It is more like a family of beliefs. Okay, so the name Hinduism, not so much in the meaning of the name of Hinduism can it be misleading, just the fact that it's Hinduism. When we think Hinduism, just like we think of a religion, Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, Taoism, whatever. And here is the set of beliefs of that, that falls under the name of that religion. No, what he's saying is because it's not a single unified religion like those other religions I named, it's more like a family of beliefs, all right? So there's a family of beliefs here, okay? Various beliefs in Hinduism. It has greatly influenced the larger world, and its influence continues to grow. The earliest stage of Indian religion in the earliest 20th century, engineers who were building a railroad discovered the ruins of an ancient culture in the Indus River Valley. Today, most of the Indus River lies in Pakistan, but it traditionally formed the natural border of northwestern India. In fact, the words India and Hindu derive from Indus. The culture that archaeological workers uncovered there flourished before 2000 BCE, okay, before Christian era. So this culture, all right, that was discovered in the 20th century, flourished before 2000 BCE, before Christian era, or BC, before Christ, okay? What's the name of this culture? It's called the Harappa Culture, after one of its ancient cities. Archaeologists were amazed by the type of civilization they found, Okay, 2000 BCE civilization that they found. The cities contained regular streets, what we call regular streets. You know, we walk out of our house, our apartment, wherever we live, whatever building, and we see what we call regular streets. Okay, what he's just help for understanding what he's saying. Okay, these kind of streets that we have. Okay, and solid brick houses. Pots and coins were discovered, as well as evidence that running water was used for toilets and baths. Now, isn't that interesting? Okay, we are talking 2000 BCE. This is what they discovered, okay? One historian remarks, no other ancient civilization until that of the Romans had so efficient a system of drains. We're talking about plumbing, all right? Okay, 2000 BCE, 2000 before Christian era or before Christ. Once again, this is what they had. They had a whole civilization, things that we maybe look at in our culture at one point in time or whatever, and feel like, oh wow, look how far we come. And those people from those ancient times, especially that time period, they were so primitive, blah, blah, blah. They didn't have this, they didn't have that, they didn't have the other. Well, there are archaeologists and people of the like who go out and dig up ruins and find these things that they did happen. So here we go with this thing of time not being linear, which we talked about time. If you remember, I think that was in the first or the second video I did on religion. In some cultures, it is not viewed as linear, okay, starting at the bottom and then just going straight forward like this upward progression. No, but cyclical, okay? So we're finding things being more cyclical. What once was comes back again, okay? Here's some evidence of that, okay? A genuine sign of technical development, what we in our modern culture, Western modern culture, would call technical development. This complex culture also had invented a writing system. Okay, so they weren't necessarily just oral tradition. They wrote. Okay, they had a writing system, which scholars are still working to decipher. They still ain't figured it out. Okay, our great mighty scholars of today. They still ain't figured this shit out. Okay, let's keep on going. Property owners marked their belongings with seals bearing the images of animals. They had, property owners. They own property, okay, just like we find, okay, now. Bearing the images of animals such as the bull, tiger, rhinoceros, as well as images of men and women, okay. Okay. I don't want to get too deep. Well, let's see. Three seals show a male sitting in a yogic position, posture, with horns on his head. Small pillars suggest male sexuality was found. The same symbols appear still in contemporary Indian culture. Okay, so we can assume that because of that current religious practices have survived from the distant past. For example, the male with the horns on his head may be a deity in an early form of the god Shiva. The pillars resemble the low columns that contemporary Indians worship in honor of Shiva. It is also quite possible that the present-day worship of the divine Great Mother, okay, and of the tree spirits goes back to this early time. Okay, we're talking about 2000, not 2000 BCE, we're talking about before 2000 BCE, okay, as indicated. All right. Now let's look at the religion of the Vedic period, okay. The ancient scriptures of India are called what? The Vedas. Okay, they give a great deal of information about gods and worship during what is called the Vedic period, the Vedas, the ancient scriptures of India, generally thought to cover about 2000 to 500 BCE. Once again, the origin of the Vedas and of the religion they describe is uncertain, okay? So there's uncertainty, period, point blank, and when we talk about the origin of the Hindu religion, okay, or this ancient religion of India. In the late 18th century, Western scholars recognized that Sanskrit, what is Sanskrit? Sanskrit is the ancient language of India and the language of the Vedas, which was related to what? Greek and Latin. They realized that many of the gods mentioned in the Vedas were the same gods who had been worshipped in Greece and Rome. Okay. They discovered that gods of similar names are mentioned in Iranian sacred literature. All right. Just give me a second real quick. Hold on real quick. Hold on. Let me look at this for a second. All right, I'm going to read a couple paragraphs here that I didn't go into when I would teach this because I didn't have time, but I want to share it with you all. All right. Later scholars theorized that a single people who called themselves Aryans, okay, which we are discussing in the ISIS papers, moved from present-day southern Russia about 200 BCE in two directions, westward into Europe and eastward into Iran and India. Entering new lands, these people were thought to have carried their language and religion with them. Scholars initially believed that in India, the outsiders imposed their social order quickly and violently. Okay, I'm underlining this, on the older culture, which kind of makes sense because that is what's consistent, okay, with, that culture. Not, all right. I'm just going to say, I don't mean that specific culture. I'm just saying that makes sense because that's what they always did, okay? And I don't mean just these people from present-day Russia, okay? Or what has been called Aryans, okay? That's what we have found historically is what they do. So it would stand to reasons that scholars would think that, okay? Now, according to this theory called the Aryan invasion theory, the Vedas were believed to be the religious writings of this invading people. Now, I personally don't believe that. Shit. I don't, okay? Let's keep on going because that's kind of contradictory to me. But let's read this next paragraph, okay? Next, could have been. I don't believe that. I gotta process that for a second, okay? Next, a variant, and remember this is a theory, so I can question it one way or the other because these scholars have, okay? Next, a variant on the older theory arose. Instead of speaking of a single invasion, the newer theory held that there were repeated waves of migrations into Pakistan and northern India, and that from these contacts between foreign and indigenous cultures, the religion of the Vedas emerged, okay? More recently, however, the second theory, called the Aryan migration theory, has been questioned, of course, okay? The migration theory is still commonly held, but some scholars view any theory, here we go. And I'm glad he wrote it in the book, okay? And didn't try to, cover up. The migration theory is still commonly held, but some scholars view any theory that assumes influence from outside India to be a continued relic of what? Western cultural imperialism. Boom, bam. We just did the second part of the indigenous cultures and indigenous religions, and why some of their way of life and their way of being and their culture and so forth, so on and so forth, is kind of waning, okay, or fading out in some parts of the world. What is it? The spread of Western culture, period, point blank, okay? And that's not new. Okay, how did this Western way of being and way of thought become this global thing that it has become now? Invasions and domination. Check us out on the ISIS papers, okay? That's just historical documented fact, okay? All right, because basically it's saying these people, these people of color wasn't able to do this, okay, and didn't come up with this without, okay, these Aryans that came along and basically gave it to them, and they, it became part of their culture. No. Okay, that goes against what we have learned historically about this group of people and what they have done, okay, globally since for how long? All right, but let's keep on going, all right? Nothing against nobody that's watching the damn channel. It is what it is. The truth is what it is, okay? Archaeological, linguistic, and genetic investigations continue to offer more clues, but their interpretation has not resolved the issue because they don't want it to resolve the issue. That's my opinion. That's what I think personally. No matter what its origins, okay? And I could damn sure tell you one thing. How come, well, let me not say that. No matter what its origins, the religion described by the Vedas seems to have consisted of the worship of mostly male gods who were believed to control the forces of nature. The father of the gods was Dyaus Pater, whose name means shining father. He is clearly the same god as the Roman god Jupiter and the Greek god Zeus Pater. Now, how come it couldn't be the other way around? Maybe they invaded, maybe they migrated there or whatever, and they did not, this whole Greek, Roman, okay, whatever paradigm where these names mean the same thing or all the same. They didn't borrow and take from this culture, this old ass culture that can't nobody figure out when did this shit even begin. Okay, the god Indra, god of storm and war, received great attention because of the strength his worshippers hoped to receive from him. Okay, he was possibly the memory of a military ancestor deified by later generations. The god of fire, Agni, whose name is related to the English word ignite and to the Latin word for fire, ignis, okay, carries sacrifices up to the world of the gods. Dawn and renewal were the charge of the goddess Ushas, one of the female deities. The god Rudra brought winds. Varuna was the god of the sky and justice. Vishnu was a god of cosmic order. And Surya was the major sun god. The god Soma was thought to call altered states of mind and to expand consciousness. He worked through what? We just talked about it, okay? He in the indigenous video, the second part, he worked through a ritual drink possibly made from the psychedelic mushroom that had the same name, Soma, okay? Now, psychedelic, that's what they calling it. That doesn't mean that that's what it is, okay? Lifting of the veil, okay? That had the same name, Soma, and allowed contact with what? The realm of the gods, as a shaman would do. Take in these entheogens in order to do that, to bring back a message to its people, okay, to reach the other side, the other realm. The god Yama ruled the afterlife. Worship of the gods took place at outdoor fire altars. Priestly specialists set apart a square or rectangular space, purified it with water, and constructed 1 to 3 low altars inside the space for sacrifice. The usual offerings were milk, clarified butter, also called ghee, grain, and sometimes animals. A special horse sacrifice believed to confer great power on a king occurred on rare occasions. All right. Now, sacred chants, which the priests knew from memory, were an essential part of the ceremonies. We talked about that. And because they, the shaman was the priest and so on and so forth. And because they believed that the chants had power of their own, the priestly class protected them and handed them down orally from father to son. It is these chants in written form that make up the core of the earliest Hindu sacred religion, the Vedas. Okay. It is these chants in written form that make up the core of the earliest Hindu sacred literature, the Vedas. Okay? Although many of the Vedic gods are no longer worshipped, elements of the Aryan religion, such as the use of fire and some of the ancient chants by priestly class, continue to be of great importance to Hindus today. Or maybe those were the elements that the Aryans took, elements from the Hindu religion that the Aryans took for them, okay? And made an essential core part of their culture. Okay, please. You don't say in one part, well, it sounds like just some Western culture imperialism for them to say that. But let's just close it out with saying, yeah, they still have some of the Aryans shit that they took there, please. All right, let's just keep on going. Now, this next section is called what? The Vedas, okay? The Vedas, which originally were preserved once again in oral form, but eventually were written down. Okay, the Vedas are the earliest sacred books of Hinduism. What does the word mean? It means knowledge or sacred lore. What words do we have in English, okay, that are related to this? Vision, wisdom. Okay, Vedas, vision. Okay, although scholars date the earliest versions of the Vedas to 1500 BCE, Hindus say they're much older than that. Okay. So who are we to listen to? A scholar who went there with all kind of, from a whole nother culture, with all kind of thoughts and ideas about what this culture was that he was going into, or she, whatever, without, who was not completely and totally objective but subjective, or the people from who are part of that culture themselves. Okay, I think I'll go with those who are part of the culture themselves. This shit is much older than that. All right, they say that the Vedas were revealed to the rishis. Who are the rishis? Rishis are holy men of the distant past. The rishis did not create the Vedas. They heard them. They transmitted them to later generations. They didn't create them. This is the teachings, okay? They didn't create them. They heard them and transmitted them. Heard them however they heard them, all right? Let's keep on. All right. 4 basic sacred text collections that constitute the Vedas. You have the Rig Veda, which is hymn knowledge. That's a collection of more than 1,000 chants to the Aryan gods. Okay, now they say Aryan. I got a problem. I got a problem with this shit. Okay. So I'm just going to say to the gods, okay, think what you will. You might want to take, I want to say, look it up yourself, but you're probably going to find the same thing that I just stated, unless there's some more updated information, okay? But if it's just saying that, well, they did, they got their way of being in life from these areas, I'm not going to believe it, because historically we find that ain't true. Historically, we find they always invading. That's what they did. Invaded. And took. Okay. I like sometimes I say, well, I'll be kind and I'll say borrowed. But even if they borrowed it, maybe not that generation that borrowed it, but later generations say, oh no, we the one that came up with this bullshit. All right. But anyway. But if it's somebody out there who's much more knowledgeable about it than I am, go ahead and leave something in the comments, okay? All right, and let me know. The Yajur Veda, which is ceremonial knowledge, contains matter for recitation during sacrifice. The Sama Veda, which is chant knowledge, is a handbook of musical elaborations of Vedic chants. And the Atharva Veda, knowledge from the teacher Atharva, consists of practical prayers and charms. These prayers are to protect against snakes and sickness. Okay, now which is the most important of the Vedas? The Rig Veda. Okay, why? Because I don't know if this is necessarily why, but in the Rig Veda there is an account of what the origin of the universe. Remember we talked about that. Okay, origins of the universe. This is what we find in religions. Okay, I don't have a whole lot of time here. All right, on my phone. All right. What is the origin of the universe? According to this, it said the universe is said to have emerged from a division and cosmic sacrifice of a primeval super person, okay, who was Purusha. But the account includes an admission of uncertainty. Who knows it for certain? This is in quotes. Who can proclaim it here? Namely, out of what was it born and wherefrom his creations issued? The gods appeared only later, after the creation of the world. Who knows then out of what it has evolved? This is in the Rig Veda itself, all right? The term Veda indicates only these 4 collections, Vedas. Okay, let me see. You'll find detailed ceremonial rules called Brahmins and Aranyakas. They were added later to the Vedic collections. The Brahmins were named for the priests who used them. They give details about the proper time and the proper place for ceremonies, the preparation, okay, of the grounds for the ceremonies, ritual objects, purification rites. The Aranyakas, which are forest books, allowed the rituals to be understood and practiced in non-literal symbolic ways by men who had left society and became ascetics in the forest. The 4 Vedas end with the later works called what? The Upanishads. Okay, what are the Upanishads? They express philosophical and religious ideas that arose in introspective and meditative traditions. Okay, and I just don't believe personally that these Aryans, this small group, went into this subcontinent, okay, and dropped out and brought their place, religion, and their gods, so on and so forth in this subcontinent. I guess they just didn't have shit. Okay. They just didn't have no kind of religious order, no kind of spiritual order, no kind of gods that they worshiped with, and they just forsook theirs for these what the Aryans brought. Some shit just don't make no fucking sense. Okay, sometimes you just, especially since it's being questioned here, you got to just go with some damn common sense sometimes, okay? And if you put it in there, you yourself, that it is a question that scholars are saying, well, that's just part of, Western culture and imperialism. But then at the same time, close it out with basically saying, but that is what happened. Get the fuck out of here, okay? Unless maybe I'm misunderstanding something and I don't think that I am. All right. The origin of the Upanishads. Okay, let's see what we got here. Make sure it's still okay. The Upanishads comprise about 100 written works that record insights into external and internal reality. I'm going to say that again because that's what we're going into. Okay. The Upanishads comprise about 100 written works that record insights into external, 100 written works that record insights into external and internal reality. Okay, let's see. Okay, let me see. Because some stuff like I said, some stuff I didn't say in class because I really didn't have time. But I got time here. So that's why I'm kind of taking breaks to see what because everything don't need to be said because, you don't want me to read the whole book to you. Okay. All right. Okay. The Upanishads, basically, okay, derived from words. It's common thought that they derive from words means sitting near. Okay. In other words, what? It suggests disciples sitting near a master, learning techniques for achieving religious experience. Primary to the Upanishads is the notion that with spiritual discipline and meditation, priests and non-priests can experience the spiritual reality that underlies all seemingly separate realities. Unlike much of the earlier Vedic material, okay, the earlier Vedic material says, only the hereditary priests can be religious masters. Okay, not just any and everybody. Okay, but remember, Upanishads came later. The Upanishads tell us that a person who has, if you got necessary experience, you can be a spiritual master too, in other words. All right. Now, what are the important concepts in the Upanishads? The most important notions of the Upanishads are Brahman, Atman, Maya, Karma, Samsara, and Moksha. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 important notions in the Upanishads. Brahman, Atman, Maya, Karma, Samsara, and Moksha. Okay. These become important and essential later in Hindu spirituality. All right. What is Brahman and Atman? The term Brahman stood for the cosmic power present in Vedic sacrifice and chants over which the priests had control. That's what it originally stood for. This is a Sanskrit word. It means neuter and comes from a stem meaning to be great. Okay. In the Upanishads, Brahman was expanded to mean, in the Upanishads, it was expanded. Okay, the meaning was expanded to what? A divine reality at the heart of things. All right, a divine reality at the heart of things. Okay, we're gonna let's see. Okay, we're gonna go. I'm gonna talk about one of the dialogues that appears in Chandaga Upanishad. Okay, a priestly father and his son, they're having a discussion. Okay, the young man had been away studying with specialists for years. He memorized chants, learned priestly rituals. His father questions him about what he had learned. The son proudly recites the formula he knows. Okay, the priestly father asks him what he knows about Brahman, the supreme spirit. Okay, the divine reality at the heart of things. But he don't know. The young man don't know shit about it. Okay. So his father, let me help you. Okay. So he asked his son to fill a glass with water, put salt in it, and leave it overnight. Here is the dialogue between them two the next day. Bring me the salt you put into the water last night. The young man looked into the water. He couldn't find it. Well, it had dissolved. His father said, taste the water from the side. How is it? It's salty. Taste from the middle. How is it? It is salt. Or salty, okay? Taste it from the side. How is it? Salty. Look for the salt again and come again to me. The son did so, saying, I can't see the salt. I only see water. The father said, in the same way, my son, you cannot see the spirit, but in truth, he is here. An invisible and subtle essence is the spirit of the whole universe. That is reality, okay? An invisible and subtle essence is the spirit of the whole universe. That is reality. That is truth, okay? Thou art that, all right? Now, that was the story, the dialogue. The Upanishads insist that Brahman is something that can be known, okay? Brahman, the divine reality at the heart of things, the supreme spirit. It is something that can be known, not just or simply believed in. Okay? There's one Upanishad that says, I know that spirit whose infinity is in all, who is ever one beyond time. I know that spirit. I know the spirit that is whose infinity is all, who the infinity of all, the supreme spirit, the divine reality at the heart of things, okay? I know it. I don't just believe in it. I know it, okay? Who is ever beyond time. Brahman is the divine spirit. This divine spirit is so real that it may be known directly, okay? And the knowledge of it can be immediate, all right? Now, what does that mean? Let me see as we go along, okay? What is it to know Brahman? Here it is, okay? It can't be put into words fully, but you can give hints. Brahman is what? The lived experience that in some way, that all things are in some way holy because they come from the same sacred source. Everything is holy. All things are holy. That's how you can know it. Everything you encounter, I would imagine, everything you do, so on and so forth, yourself, etc., etc. Why? Because all things are holy. Why are all things holy? Because they all come from the same source, the supreme source, the divine reality of all things. All right? It is also the experience that all things are in some way ultimately one. Okay? Now, he says, the author, this is an experience that seems to defy common sense. See, that's the language that I don't like, common sense. It's not common sense. It seems to defy your Western idea and your Western ideology and your Western worldview of your understanding of things. Not common sense, because it's common sense to those who understand it from whatever culture, from this culture that it derives from, okay? Since the world appears to be divided into many objects and types of reality, but that's how we see the world, all right? Nevertheless, okay, when we consider reality deeply, we recognize unities. A piece of wood, it's a piece of wood, but what does it become? A piece of wood can become a house, a boat, fire, ash. Water can turn into a cloud or a plant. Isn't that interesting? Yes. So on closer inspection, all things that appear to be separate and divided, those things, those quote unquote lines, those imaginary lines that we have that separate us and divide us, what happens here? They blur. Water becomes this. A piece of wood becomes that. The lines are blurred. There is no separation. There is no division. All things are one. Okay? So to experience Brahman is to know firsthand, every apparently individual reality in the world is a wave of the same sacred ocean of energy. Everything comes from the same source, basically. Right? Brahman is the sun, the moon, and the stars. He is the fire, the waters, the wind. Brahman is the God who appears in what? Appears in forms infinite, an infinite amount of forms. Okay? God is all. You understand what I'm saying? You be, okay, the plants, the trees, etc., the mountains, the water, the whatever. All forms infinite. That is Brahman. That is the divine reality at the heart of things. That is the supreme spirit, okay? Brahman is referred to by three words. Sat, which is reality itself, okay? Chit, C-H-I-T, which is pure consciousness, all right? And Ananda, which is bliss. Every time I see that word, I went to school with Ananda Lewis, okay? For those of you who remember her or familiar with her, we had some classes together, live in the same building. Every time I see that, I think of her, okay? And a very beautiful woman, okay? So when I see bliss, it's like they gave her the perfect name, all right? All right, although Brahman can be experienced in our everyday world, in time and space, Ultimately, now this is the tripped out thing. Ultimately, it is beyond time and it's beyond space, okay? So, what do the Upanishads do for that? They add that experiencing the timelessness of Brahman can bring an end to everyday suffering and to the fear of death. It is a time, it is ultimately beyond time. You can know it, but ultimately, okay, it is beyond time and it is beyond space. That kind of makes me think of a scripture, a Bible verse. Okay. Because I feel like in a sense, reading this is like in Christianity and Christian thought, okay, like you can know God, okay, in that sense, you can experience God. Now, I'm not saying that they say that the experience of God is the same as Brahman in terms of, God is in all things, this, that, and other. I'm talking about Christianity. I'm not talking about, what we feel or what we think. I'm talking about the tenets of Christianity, okay. However, but I do know that there's a scripture that says something about, God is referred to as he, just as we saw here, Brahman is referred to as he, okay? But at the same time, what they say, what is that scripture that says something about God is not a man, basically, okay? Consistently referred to as a man with, as he, with personality, so on and so forth, as a he or a human being, yet God is not a man. God is beyond that, in other words, okay? Okay. Let's see. Okay. So, okay, knowing Brahman and understanding that, knowing that you can know Brahman and understanding that ultimately Brahman is beyond time and beyond space. Okay, experiencing the timelessness of Brahman can bring an end to everyday suffering and what the fear of death is. What are you fearing? You already know Brahman now. Brahman is beyond time and space. Death, you will be beyond time and space, okay? The notion of Atman, now let's get into Atman. This is the second concept of the Upanishads, is related to Brahman in an equally important term in the Upanishads. Atman is sometimes translated as self or soul, but it is different from an individual soul. It's not about, from your individual soul. It's better translated as deepest self as opposed to just self or soul. Deepest self, which I would think soul would be deepest self, okay? But let's just stick with this, okay? Sometimes it's translated as subtle self, okay? Each person has an individual soul, okay, in Hinduism, or Jiva, I believe I pronounce, Jiva. The individual soul confers uniqueness and personality, okay? This is what gives you your uniqueness, your personality, right? My uniqueness, my personality, right? Me as Kenyatta, my uniqueness as Kenyatta, and my personality as Kenyatta. But Hinduism asks the question, at the very deepest level, what really am I? Am I really just, Kenyatta? Are you really just whoever you are watching this? Okay, what really am I? All right, I am more clearly not just my body. Okay, this physical vessel that we're in. My height, my weight, my hair color, okay, because all of these things can change, all right? I wasn't this size weight-wise last year, okay? I done changed my hair color, all right? My height will change. I'll be 50 April 4th. More than likely, I've probably dropped maybe an inch or two. Probably not two, but probably about an inch. I'm probably about an inch shorter. Okay, because the older we get, we lose height. Or maybe like a half inch or something like that. Okay, these things change. So that proves right there, we're not just our body because it changes. Okay, we can change it. Okay, so then what am I? And my taste, my thoughts, my memories. Okay, honey, especially when you get to that middle age, like I was sharing with someone the other day, that midlife shit is real. You begin to look at memories, they start flooding. Okay, when I was this, when I was that, when I was this age, when I was that age, okay, they just start flooding your mind. Okay, your tastes even change, your thoughts change. Okay? Or is there more? Understand, you will change. Shit, you should. You change from when you was 2. If not, something's, wrong. Okay, in the development, something happened in your development that we would the society. I'm gonna be politically correct, that the society would consider not normal. Okay, or is there more? Is there not in me a reality more fundamental than what? Those changing individual characteristics. Those things change in our physical selves. These things change. All right. According to the Upanishads, at the deepest level of what I am is what? The deepest level of what I am is a divine reality, a divine spirit. Okay? That everything shares. Everything shares this divine reality, this divine spirit. Okay? Your soul, let me make sure I got this right, okay, gives you, the individual soul gives you your uniqueness. It gives you your personality. But at the deepest level, okay, of what you truly are is a divine reality, a divine spirit, and everything shares this divine reality and this divine. Everyone shares it, all right? The Upanishads teach that it is true to say, here we are, okay? The Upanishads teach that it is true to say that I am God. Because for the person who understands fully, because for the person who understands reality at the deepest level, everything is God. And I see what's interesting now we find in Christianity. I'm not talking about the Bible. I'm talking about Christianity. According to the tenets of Christianity, that would, to say I am God would be blasphemous. You would not dare say that. That's blasphemous. However, in the book that Christianity uses in the Old and the New Testament, it does say ye are gods, okay? But we just gonna stick with the tenets. We ain't gonna stick with necessarily what's in the book that is used. Okay, understand, okay? But nevertheless, so even some Christians, even though they have that book, that would be blasphemous to say. You do not say that you are God. However, from the Hindu perspective, because at the deepest level, we are all divine. We all share the same divinity, okay? We all share this thing that is the divine reality at the heart of things, okay? We all come from this supreme spirit here. We all share this, okay? Meaning what? Okay, that I'm God. Okay, everything is God. Okay, not that I'm the supreme one over everybody. I judge everybody. I judge the world. I created everything. No, that is not what that means. That's a Western understanding of God. Okay, Atman, or Christian understanding. Okay, Atman, when experienced fully, is identical with Brahman. They're one and the same. Okay. Atman, like Brahman, is divine, holy, and timeless. The term Brahman refers to the experience of the sacred within nature and the external universe. Okay, here we go. It refers to the experience of the sacred within nature and the external universe. Atman, on the other hand, refers to the experience of the sacred within oneself. Okay, the internal and the external, but yet the same thing. How it is experienced outside of you is Brahman. How it is experienced within you is Atman. But at the same time, the experience is one and the same. What is that experience? To know God, to know Brahman. Why? Because you are God. You are Brahman. All right. All right. Let me see. I got a few more minutes. And I thought I would be able to get through all 6 of these notions today. But I don't think I'll be able to. I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop it, get back to it, and take a break before I have to go pick up my daughter. Hold on. I'm mainly wondering because I don't have that much juice on my phone. Okay. All right. Let me see if I can finish out these as much as I can. I only have a few minutes, okay? Maya. Let's get into the next notion. Maya. What is Maya? The Upanishads speak of the everyday world as Maya. Basically, M-A-Y-A. Maya is illusion. Okay? Now, let's explain what this is. Okay? Maya contains both meanings, magic and matter. To say all reality is Maya is not to say that the world doesn't exist. Okay, when we talk about illusion, not to say it doesn't exist, because it does, or that it's a total false perception. The world is real. It is real. Okay? It's real. We live in it. We experience it. We know it. Okay? But not in the way most people assume. Human beings view the world as consisting of individual things and people, all separate. Now remember what we just went over. Okay? In reality, the world is one basic holy reality that takes on different forms. Okay? It advises us, one of the Upanishads advises us, know, therefore, that nature is Maya, but that God is the ruler of Maya, and that all beings in our universe are part of his infinite splendor. Okay? All things in the universe are part of his infinite splendor. Okay. People assume that the world is solid. We assume that it's permanent. In reality, the outside world that is outside of us is like the inner world of thoughts and dreams. What is that? Ever changing. It shifts. It changes. Our thoughts change. Our dreams change. We change. You understand what I'm saying? Our tastes change. Our personality changes. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's some things that are, may stay consistent, but there's change that takes place. All right? That's what happens to the outer world. It changes. What do they say? The only constant is change. Okay? People assume that time is real, that it advances at a particular or a regular rate, and that past, present, and future are distinct divisions. But in reality, time is relative. Does past, present, and future exist at distinct divisions? Or is it all happening at the same time, basically? Okay? All right? Now is the future of the past of a few seconds ago. All right? And the present becomes the past and blah, blah, blah. All right? Before I get tongue twisted with all that, all right? The Upanishads see things differently. First, individuals are not as individual as they suppose. You're not as unique as you think you are, okay? We do have a uniqueness. We do have a personality, but it is not as individual as we think, okay? They're all manifestations, once again, of the divine spirit, all manifestations of God, all manifestations of this divine reality that's at the heart of things. Okay, and this divine spirit does not end when the individual dies. So when you die, that don't mean it's over. Okay, they're continuations of what? Earlier forms of life that have taken on new forms. Hinduism, from about 500 BCE, generally adopted the belief that every living thing has its own life force. Okay, and every life force, when it loses one form, is simply reborn into another. Now, it don't say what form it's born into, but we're going to get into that. This process is known as what? Reincarnation, and which takes us into karma. Okay, I am tired, y'all. I think I'm going to just take a little break. Okay, maybe I'll post this a little bit, or maybe I'll finish it. I hate to break stuff up, you know what I mean? But hey, it is what it is. Okay. But yeah, I'm going to, I'm going to post this, okay? I'll set it as a premiere. And then, or maybe if I come back tonight, if I have more energy, because I'm getting sleepy, I'll finish this out. We'll see. One way or the other, y'all will see it. All right. Thank you. Like, share, and subscribe. I hope that this is of interest to you and value to you. Go ahead and, post it in the comment section. Check out my website, kenyattasintuition.com, if you're interested in reading, or my pendulum class. Check out me and Sunkiss. We've been on pretty much every night at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central for the ISIS papers. Okay, come on over there, join the discussion, and y'all be blessed. Peace. All right, hey YouTube, I decided to go ahead and finish these this section off real quick. What is this? The 6 important notions of the Upanishads. I finished off with reincarnation, so I just have Just 3 more to go. Karma, Samsara, and Moksha. All right, so let's get into, we left off with talking briefly about reincarnation. So now we're going to get into karma. This is where karma comes in, okay? The general Hindu notion of rebirth assumes that human beings have at one or another time existed as a lower form, such as an animal, insect, and possibly even a plant. Hinduism recognizes the grades of human life, from limited and painful to exceptionally pleasant and free. Human beings are capable of achieving higher forms of life, such as superhuman beings and demigods. Rebirth can go in either direction. Okay, rebirth can go in either direction. The human stage is a dangerous one. Why? Because each human being must make dramatic choices on how to live. If a human being doesn't live properly, they may be reborn into a very poor or cruel human family, or possibly in a form of life that may be even more limited and difficult, such as a dog, a pig, or an ant. So it's not like you start necessarily off as this lower form and you can only go to a higher form. It depends on what you do in the stage, in your human life stage. Okay. In a stage where you live as a human being, you can go back to a lower form. All right. A human being can also make a spectacular leap upward beyond the human level, okay, to a superhuman existence, or even beyond to complete freedom. And what does that mean? We are going to get in that. All right. Now, what is it that determines the direction of your rebirth? Okay. What is it that's going to determine which way you go in your rebirth? Okay. Karma, that's what it's determined by. So we hear a lot about karma, okay? We may look at it as what goes around comes around. You reap what you sow, what you give out is what you're going to get back. But let's look closely here at what karma is in Hinduism. The word comes from a root that means to do and implies the notion of moral consequences. Okay, so the consequences that are carried along with every act. This is why it's such a dangerous stage to be in when you are here as a human being. Okay, karma is simply a moral law, the moral law of cause and effect. Okay, belief in karma is a belief that every action has an automatic moral consequence. Right? One well-known saying expresses nicely the nature of karma. Like I said, what goes around comes around. It doesn't have anything to do with God's will, okay, or the will of Brahman. It doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just a natural law, okay? Let me see. Okay. Or I better say a moral law. Okay, just simply the law of cause and effect. It's just a law. Okay, God doesn't, make it. Okay, I'm gonna give you this terrible consequence because blah blah blah. ABC. No, karma takes care of that. All right, or positive in whatever direction. Okay, simply. Why does it? Let me say this: karma does not work because it is not the will of God. Okay, or Brahman. It has nothing to do with that, but simply because karma, once again, basically I just said it, is an essential part of the nature of things. It's simply just the way things work. Okay, it's just how it works. Okay, good karma brings higher rebirth. Bad karma brings rebirth in lower, more painful forms, limited forms. In a certain way, this belief allows for upward mobility, since human beings, by their actions, have influence over their future births. Okay, so your actions, in your human stage is going to determine, whether you can go higher or not. Ultimate freedom comes when karma ceases to operate. Okay, rebirth, whether upward or downward on the scale, has entirely ended. All right, I don't know. This is interesting. I wonder what happens though if you come in a lower form. If you were already in the lower form, what is going to determine whether you come back in a higher form or not? I don't know. Okay, I never thought about that before. It just kind of hit me. Some teachers say that karma is it's neither good nor bad, but it only seems so to the person who experiences it. Excuse me. Of course. You know what I'm saying? It's not good or bad, okay? But the person who experiences it one way or the other is going to put a label to it. In this conception, karma is like gravity. It works like a force of nature. It's like rain, which can cause a plant to grow, just as it can bring a picnic to its end. Karma helps explain why some people are born with great gifts, while others are born with no advantages at all. Okay, it may seem, in your present life, in one's present life, it may seem unfair, but okay, what did they do in their last life? That's going to determine what's going to happen in their next life, okay, or that current life. It's not so much about what happens in your present life, okay? Like a lot of times we look at karma like that. Somebody does something bad or wrong or whatever, and they're going to have karma come down on them. Well, karma is from life to life, not in your present life now. I'm not saying, no, you still don't have the law of cause and effect in your present life. I'm talking about the law of karma. It's about from life to life, not in the present life, okay? That does not mean, once again, that there aren't any kind of, law of cause and effect, what goes around comes around, so on and so forth in your present life. We're talking specifically about karma, okay? How karma works in Hinduism, okay? All right, now. Okay. Once again, okay, it can be explanation why, some people, just seem to have an easy life. Things always go great for them, so on and so forth. From the Hindu perspective, what did they do in their past life? Okay, if it's the opposite, okay, everything, things are shitty for a person all the time, no matter what they do, etc., etc. What did they do in their last life? Now, let's look at this. Samsara, the term samsara, what is that? It refers to the wheel of life, the circle of constant rebirth, constantly coming back over and over again. And it suggests strongly that the everyday world is full of change as well as struggle and suffering. The everyday world, just your everyday existence, is full of change. We talked about that. Change is the only constant. We see there's a lot about change here, as well as struggle and suffering. That's a part of your everyday world, struggle and suffering. The Hindu view of human life, because of its belief in reincarnation, is rather different from that commonly held in the West. Okay? Okay. In the West, we may say things like, we hear, you only live once. All right? Well, obviously, this wouldn't be the same view as someone who is a Hindu. Okay, that's not the belief system. Okay, the belief system is, reincarnation. You gonna come back. All right. This view of life is shared by Hindus who believe an individual is constantly being reborn. All right, having come from different earlier forms, going on to emerge in new forms in the future. Our present human life is so short. We may think that we live several lives in the future as well. All right. But how many would each of us really like? I mean, how many times do you really want to live? Okay. 10 may sound reasonable, but 100, 1,000, 10,000, a million. All right. That's kind of tiring to think about the possibilities of all those many lifetimes. And many of those forms would inevitably be unhappy ones. Every single one is not going to be a positive one. Every single one, even if it's just 10, okay? But there's no limitation here on how many lives a person can live, all right? 1,000, 10,000, a million. Okay, so there's going to be some lives that you live that are going to be unhappy, but sooner or later you want to stop coming back over and over and over again. You want to escape, you want the release, you want the liberation. All right, which leads us to the next concept. The thing about this is I feel like they say that it is a dangerous time when you come back when you live a life as a human being, because you may not necessarily remember your last life. Okay. All right. It's just the knowledge of if you have some unfortunate circumstances, it's just the knowledge of, damn, I must have, did some pretty shitty things in my last life. Okay. To come back in this situation. Okay. But how do you free yourself? Even if it's a happy life, how do you free yourself? Who wants to keep coming back here over and over and over again, starting over and over again from an infant, and it may seem short, right? But then again, it depends on your situation and your experience, where it really may not seem short. And even it doesn't matter the length of time. Who wants to keep coming over and over again? Okay, especially, I'm just saying, not only, but especially if it is a not so pleasant life. All right, now let's get into the next concept, which is moksha. Moksha, means freedom, liberation. It comes from the root that means to be released. In the Upanishads, what is the ultimate human goal? Moksha, to be free, to be released from samsara, from this wheel of life, from constantly coming back over and over again and being reborn over and over again, all right? It has various connotations. Moksha certainly includes the notion of getting beyond egotistic responses. All right. It takes a lot of work to get to this place. All right. Getting beyond egotistic responses such as resentment and anger, which limit the individual. And these things are very much part of being human. So, that's why they say that's a dangerous life to live as a human being. All right. Unlike the modern world, unlike the modern idea of seeking complete freedom to satisfy one's individual desires, moksha implies liberation even from the limitations of being an individual. Okay, so it's interesting. You can come back over and over and over again, however many times, okay, but you're not going to be the same person that you were, in the life that you were before your current life. All right. But each life you live is limiting. Okay. How? Okay. Each life is limiting. You don't necessarily remember your last life, but how is each life limiting? From being born a particular person. This is the limitations of being an individual. Being born a particular person at a specific time to a unique pair of parents, a person with distinct physical characteristics, emotions, desires, and memories. Therein lies your limitation. Okay. Me as Kenyatta sitting here, okay, and all my characteristics and what make me me is going to be different than you, the viewer. All right. We may have some things in common, okay, but we are still different. Okay. You were born to your set of parents. I was born to my set of parents. You were born to who have their own limitations. You were born wherever you were born. I was born wherever I was born. You were raised wherever you were. I don't say raised. You grew up wherever you grew up. I grew up wherever I grew up. They're different. They're not the same. So I cannot know your experience. You cannot know my experience. You cannot understand in full me or know me. I cannot understand in full you or know you because of these limitations. Okay, your experience is going to be different. My experience is going to be different. My worldview is going to be different, as is yours, based off of these limiting things, these limiting characteristics. Two people can grow up in the same household, okay, and still be limited. Okay, gender limits us. Okay, again, what else limits us? Okay, in other words, me as Kenyatta, born a black female, okay, Cleveland, Ohio, is going to be different maybe from, not maybe, shit, it's going to be different from, Joe, white male, born in, I don't know, New York City. You understand what I'm saying? The experiences are going to be different, okay? And even if it was another black female, even still born here in Cleveland, Ohio, maybe even still born in the same household, it's going to be different. She is her own unique person as I am, all right? These are the things that limit us. Our tastes are different. Our likes are different. Everything, okay? There might be some things that are in common, but still, you are not that person, okay? And that person is not me. Now, you can take actions to overcome these restrictions, for example, by leaving the home, going out and exploring, learning more, but it still doesn't mean that you are going to know the fullness of the experience of the all right? Which is sometimes a means of attaining moksha, but one can also accept, interesting, Okay, as opposed to overcoming them, one can accept the limitations while living with them. And what will this do? Help you to gain inner peace and mental freedom. Okay, I just accept myself for who and what I am. Okay, I accept my limitations. Right, I accept that maybe my worldview can only be but so big. My understanding of life and living, can only be but so big. Okay, I can only become so well-rounded. Okay, like sometimes I find it interesting. I don't really hear too much anymore, but I'm sure people still say things like find your passion. Well, to live your passion, do your passion. It can be difficult for a person to do that because they are limited beings, things that may limit them, their economic status, and various other kinds of circumstances that will not even allow them the opportunity to explore the very many facets of life and all the various things that one can do to find exactly what their passion might be. They're limited, okay, in that regard, okay? As one becomes free, so they may say, well, I accept, okay, and understand these limitations and work within, basically work with what I have, right? As one becomes freer, one looks at life less from a selfish and egotistic point of view and more from a perspective that embraces the whole. Okay, so in other words, it just ain't all about you. And once again, these egotistic responses that even further limit us. All right, the unity and sacredness that what everything shares becomes a part of everyday experience. Remember that when we talked about Brahman and Atman, okay, that, here, I want to, make sure I say it correctly. Okay, at the deepest level, that everything is God. Okay, at the deepest level. Okay, I may not know the specifics of who you are and your shit. Hell, a lot of times we don't even know the specifics of our own. It takes a lifetime, okay, of our own self, let alone try to understand and focus on someone else and their being. Okay, it takes a lot of work just to know and understand our own. All right. So at the deepest level, that everything is God. Okay. Okay, and basically that there is a divine, that we are at the deepest level, divine reality, the divine spirit that everything shares, that we are all one. Okay, different experiences, all right, different understandings, different worldviews. Okay, kindness to all animals, as well as people, is one natural result of this insight. Okay, what's the insight again? That the unity and sacredness, the unity that we are all one, and sacredness that everything shares. And I just went over what that everything is, becomes a part of our everyday existence, becomes a part of our everyday experience. Coming to that understanding, coming to that peace of mind, coming to that mental freedom. Kindness to all, to animals as well as people, is one natural result of this insight. And kind actions also generate helpful karma. Okay, detaching from oneself. Okay, from pleasure or pain is another practice that leads to freedom from egotism. Detach from it, let it go. Okay, that, I have to have this. Okay, just attaching pleasure to it, or if I don't, then this, which is probably it's some kind of experience of pain, or that a person may feel that they may have. Let it go. Okay, all right. Let the ego, in other words, these egotistic responses, resentment, anger, pleasure, pain. Okay, this leads to freedom from the ego. All right, which limits the individual. Ultimately, with enough insight and ascetic practice, the individual can go beyond the limited self. Okay, but it takes insight and it takes practice. It's not necessary. I'm not saying that it can't come natural to you, but it takes insight. Okay, and it takes practice. The individual can go in, and it has to, I'm feeling that it would have to be something from not just, okay, I'm just going to do this just so I don't have to come back here. Then that's part of the ego saying that, but a natural way of an understanding, once again, okay, this sacredness, this unity that we all share, that everything shares, okay? When insight and kindness are perfect, at the last pain of rebirth, wait a minute. When insight and kindness are perfect, at last the pain of rebirth ends when it's perfect. Okay, when insight and kindness are perfect, insight being able to look at oneself, okay, to gain this inner peace, this mental freedom, okay, removing ourselves, detaching ourselves from the pleasure and the pain and so on and so forth. Once again, the ego, when this is perfect, okay, when kindness to ourselves, kindness to others, kindness to everything around us and everyone around us, because now we understand that we all share the same thing, that we all come from the same place. You understand what I'm saying? That we are unity, sacredness of all things, okay? Then the pain of rebirth ends. Then there's no more coming back. The limitations of individuality are gone. Then the limitations of individuality are gone. Then how then are the limitations of individuality are gone? Because you understand that Brahman, that Atman, okay, that divine reality not only exists just within you or those that you love or care about, but it exists within all. We all share it. We all, come from this same source. Okay, all things, all people, animals, so on and so forth. And understanding that and knowing that, then you would be kind to others. But I would feel like first you need to be kind to yourself, okay? But once you understand that truth of who you are at the deepest level, which is who that divine reality, okay, at the deepest level. What was it called? Brahman, the supreme spirit. The divine reality at the heart of things, the divine reality, okay, within yourself, which is what we understand God. And we say that I am God, then trust, according to this, that not only you are God, but that everyone is God, okay? And that all things are God. And then here comes the kindness, okay? Compassion, love, so on and so forth, okay? With no pleasure, pain, resentment, anger, so on and so forth, none of those things being attached to it, okay? Only Brahman remains, that divine reality, the supreme, why I keep forgetting it, the supreme spirit, all right? All right. In another Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka, I think I pronounced it right. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad explains complete freedom and quotes, when all has become spirit, one's own self, okay? How and whom could one see? The Upanishads, though sometimes obscure, are devoted to promoting an insight into ultimate oneness, the oneness of all, of everyone. But the Upanishads do not give detailed instructions for achieving that kind of insight or for living spiritually in the everyday world. Okay, such guidance would have had to be developed by later Hindu commentators and practitioners. Okay, so we see it doesn't explain how to do it. Okay, and that comes later. I'm not sure if I'll go over that. Oh yeah, I think briefly we go over that. All right, that's it. We will continue on with not the Upanishads, with Hinduism. Okay, the next section is called Living Spiritually in the Everyday World. Here we are. Here we're moving on into that. Okay. This will just be one more video. And then we're going to go into Buddhism. Which I really like the story of Siddhartha Gautama, who became the Buddha. Okay. It's really good. Really good stuff here. All right. All right. All right. Once again, y'all like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. Check out my website, www.kenyattasintuition.com. Continue to watch me and Sunkissed at Sunkissed Spiritual Consulting, or Mrs. Sunkissed, as we continue on with the Isis Papers, The Keys to the Colors by Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. If you'd like to donate to the channel, all the information is below. Remember, learning promotes growth, growth promotes understanding, and understanding promotes community. Y'all be blessed and have a great day. Peace.